children good morning. This is one of the few moments in life when you want to pinch yourself. When 5 years ago I started thinking about the show long before I moved to New York, I did not imagine that I would be given the opportunity to mount the Metropolitan Museum of Art's first ever exhibition devoted to Walt Disney, who ranks amongst the most influential artistic figures this country ever produced. So, for this rather important occasion, I prepared a speech. Here it is, 24 pages. Now, depending on how quickly I go to read them, this could add up to 50, 60, or even more minutes. I can see the terrified looks in the eyes of our press team. Now, rest assured, most of these pages are blank. But think about what these 24 pages represent. This is the starting point of the illusion of life. You need 24 individual drawings for 1 second of hand-drawn animation. That's roughly $500,000 for a full-length feature film. Animating the inanimate was the guiding principle of both Disney artists and rococo craftspeople. This exhibition brings together what at first may seem two very different worlds: the finest 18th century decorative works of art created for a small European elite, and a slate of 20th century animated film with a peerless global reach. And yet, both forms of artistic expression benefit from being examined in the context of the other, especially if you consider the many areas of overlap in their source of inspiration: artistic intuition, rhetoric, humor, craftsmanship, workshop practices, advances each pushed in design and technology, and let's not forget the establishment of strong, recognizable brands and copyrights. The Met is the largest encyclopedic museum in the Americas, and in thinking about this exhibition, I felt quite strongly that Walt Disney should be granted entry to its august halls. Disney had an undeniable impact on world culture. The output of its studios was and is vast. So, where to begin? What to focus on? What this exhibition offers is not a retrospective of his work that has been done elsewhere, but what I hope is an effervescent dialogue between two different forms of animation, two different forms of the illusion of life and the fantasy of motion. Rococo artists identified an array of methods to animate their inanimate works. In the exhibition, we have Meissonier's famous candle stick, which evokes motion through sinuous curves borrowed from shells and vegetation that led the eye across a complicated asymmetrical surface reminiscent of abstract sculpture. Meissonier's contemporary and biographer, King, animated the inanimate in his ballet The Teapot Prince, in which, as you will soon discover, a prince is in fact turned into a teapot. Camus' ballets demonstrated a rich exchange between the decorative and the performing arts, and presage Walt Disney's silly symphonies, The Clock Store and The Chime Shop, released 2 centuries later. Camus' friend, Burchard, in turn, wrote one of the most popular novels of the 18th century, The Sofa, A Moral Tale, in which a man is punished for his poor behavior by being turned into a piece of upholstered furniture. We have an early edition of the book in the exhibition, and indeed a contemporaneous sofa. Yesterday, a security guard told me he could have sworn that at night when he saw the sofa walking through the exhibition. I'm still not quite sure whether he was joking or not. But what the security guard did, however, is something that we all do, consciously or subconsciously. We anthropomorphize. We attribute human properties to non-human entities, often even without realizing it. This, of course, is reflected in the terminology that we use to describe furniture and decorative works of art. Chairs and sofas have arms, backs, and legs. Teapots have bellies and shoulders. Candlesticks have arms, and clocks have faces. Anthropomorphisms are essential to the shared rhetoric of Disney and Rococo artists, employed with fantasy and wit. But children are particularly prone to this psychological phenomenon in seeing human characteristic in inanimate objects. Children's perception of the world and their ability to let their imagination run free fascinated both the salons of French Enlightenment as well as Walt Disney himself. In fact, Disney encouraged his mature viewers to adopt some of the innocence that allows the young to believe truly in the magic of fairy tales. Now, Walt Disney animation and his perspective on the visual arts aroused the curiosity of some of the liveliest intellects of his day. In the 1930s, he received honorary degrees from Harvard and Yale, was hailed a one-man Renaissance, described as, and this is my favorite description, a 20th century Cellini responsible for the mining of his own gold, and greatly admired by Professor Erwin Panofsky, the doyen of Euro-American art history. Walt Disney entertained a rather patchy relationship with the intellectual circles of the 1930s, who at the time mistook him for one of them. He said, "We make films for entertainment, and then the professors tell us what they mean." Well, I'm no professor, but I will admit that inevitably, more than once I have contemplated what Walt Disney might have made of my reading of his works. Walt Disney repeatedly emphasized the face value of his works. According to him, there were no hidden or subliminal messages, yet his audience have read meaning into his films. Who's Afraid of the Big Bad Wolf, Disney's first musical hit in 1933, became an anthem for post-Depression America. Cinderella's transformation scene, which you can see in the exhibition, has been interpreted as a realization of the American dream of the 1950s. And the mob song in Beauty and the Beast as a commentary of the AIDS crisis and those afflicted with the incurable disease. These readings are legitimate interpretation, but it is important to remind ourselves that, rather like Sarah Vase and Mice and Figurines in our exhibition, these films are reflections of the society for which they were made, not a commentary on it, which are two very different things. Disney animation and rococo decorative arts are the result of large and carefully orchestrated workshops, a subject that always fascinated me. Huge studios with real people with passion, creativity, different skill sets, but also real personalities and quirks, overcoming the challenges of working together to produce something that looks like it was designed, conceived, and made by one single individual. Almost every Disney artist with whom I have had the privilege to speak emphasized that one of the greatest joys of participating in the production of an animated feature film was working in concert with other creative minds, everyone benefiting from each other's energy. The same can be said about the stimulating teamwork of the great many people here at the Met, the Wallace Collection, and indeed at Disney who were involved in the mounting of this exhibition. Now, I cannot list all of them here now, but luckily, we have here a complete record of every participant in this rather handsome tome. And I wouldn't be doing my job properly if I did not encourage every single one of you to acquire this exhibition catalogue, not only for yourself, but for each member of your family and your friends. As a Disney-approved product, it is, of course, something for the entire family. And because everyone involved in this exhibition is listed at the beginning of this book, you will, I hope, forgive me for singling out just a small number of colleagues without whom we simply wouldn't be here today. At the Wallace Collection, I would like to thank my curatorial counterpart, Helen Jacobson, who's here, who was the best partner in crime I could ever have hoped for, and Satya Bray, the director of the Wallace Collection, for his ongoing encouragement and support. Our principal lenders were, as Max and Sarah pointed out, the Walt Disney Archives, the Walt Disney Animation Research Library, Disney Imagineering, and the Walt Disney Family Museum. And I'd like to thank Mary Walsh, the Executive Director of the Walt Disney Animation Research Library, and Kristen McCormick, Head of Exhibition, as well as their entire team for their extraordinary generosity. The vast majority of the works on paper in the show are theirs, so if they hadn't believed in this exhibition, we simply wouldn't have one. Here at the Met, I once again witnessed the extraordinary sense of community and can-do attitude of my colleagues across all departments. I'm extremely grateful to Dan Weiss, our President and CEO, Max Hollein, our Director, and Sarah Lawrence, the Head of the European Sculpture and Arts Department, for giving me the opportunity to curate the exhibition and for their constant support of the process. And again, there are so many people here who were involved in the making of this exhibition, all of whom contributed in a significant way, but I hope you'll forgive me for singling out just 4 key players. Liz Block, the editor of the catalogue, who exhibited extraordinary patience in the face of an excruciatingly slow workflow. Gillian Frew, the exhibition project manager. Throughout the genesis of this exhibition, she has given me the level of reassurance that only a big sister can do, who sees to it that nobody bullies her little brother on the playground. Patrick Heron, the magician architect who designed the perfect space for the exhibition. we had given him the not entirely straightforward brief to hit the right spot between juvenile playfulness and academic sobriety, and of course he met it with bravura. And finally, the incredible Den Stone, collection manager of the European Sculpture and Decorative Arts Department. Denny is quite simply the glue that holds our department together. Now, at this stage, you're probably thinking this presentation lasts far longer than 24 pages. Well, before I conclude, I would like to encourage you all to return at 12 p.m. for a surprise premiere of the Conte Kilius Teapot Prince Ballet, written in 1739, 1 year before Beauty and the Beast, and not before since. My colleague Meredith Martin will share some explanation with you then. And now, before I set you free, I'd like to acknowledge once again that the juxtaposition of Disney and Rococo is an unusual one. Both call upon our senses rather than our intellect and encourage imagination and fantasy. As I pointed out earlier, Disney took an interest in children's perception of the world and their ability to let their imagination run free. He spoke of, I quote, that fine, clean, unspoiled spot down deep in every one of us that maybe the world is made to forget and that maybe our pictures can help recall. So all of you, as you explore the exhibition, are very much invited to rediscover that spot